Alright guys, today I wanted to go through my elemental weapon commander deck. This is Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. This is going to be a little bit different than my previous commander videos. I'm going to try to keep this shorter and more targeted. So I'm only going to go through the main points of the deck, and I'm not going to go through every card as in previous episodes. So this one is Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. He is a legendary human shaman. At the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So these are the tokens that he creates. They're only temporary. They only last until the beginning of the next end step. So at the end of turn, they basically are exiled. So that leaves your second main phase open for other things, which we're going to get into later. For now, we have equipment. So these are the main equipment that I use. These are the pillars of the deck here. We've got Death Render. This is a very good, solid equipment for this deck because you're going to be sacrificing a lot of elemental creature tokens. And Death Render is equipped creature gets +2/+2, and whenever equipped creature dies, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield and attach Death Render to it. So this one, you attach Death Render to it, and then you sacrifice the elemental token, and then you can play a creature from your hand onto the field. So this is easy way to cheating creatures onto the battlefield. Super good. And then we have Dragon Throne of Tarkir. Equipped creature as Defender, and you can tap it. You can pay 2 and tap it. Other creatures you control gain trample and +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. So you can equip this onto your commander, onto Valduk, and then you can use him to buff the elementals that he's going to be putting out, equal to the number of aura and equipment attached to him. Then we have a Hammer of Nazan. This one's very good because it gives indestructible, but it also, whenever Hammer of Nazan or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. So it's a free equip for any future. Once it's on the field, it equips itself, and it will also equip any future equipment casts that you have. So it's very solid. Yeah, completely. It's a great hammer. Hammer of Nazan. Great equipment. And this equipment here, this next one, it's just a rock. It's linked to this creature card here, this Togo Goblin Weaponsmith. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Rock. With equipped creature has pay 1 and tap, sacrifice Rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any target. Equip 1. So this is basically a landfall ability without being a landfall ability. Every time you play a land enters the battlefield under your control, you just get a rock. And then you can equip these rocks onto your commander, and the more rocks you have, the more elementals that he'll create at the beginning of each combat. This is a great combo here. Not really a combo, it's just an engine to start doing crazy shenanigans on the battlefield. Okay, and then we got buffs, because you're going to want to buff all these elemental creatures that you're going to be creating. We got Ardaz, Cobbler of War, as haste, and whenever Ardaz, Cobbler of War, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So all those elementals that you're going to be creating are going to be getting +2/+0. And they have trample and haste, so it's just buffing them up so that they can trample through other things. And you can also pay 4 with 1 red in there, and you create a 1/1 goblin creature token with haste. You can activate only as a sorcery, which is fine. You really just want this second ability here. There's haste, and then there's whenever he enters the battlefield or another creature enters the battlefield, they get +2/+0 until end of turn. So that's really good. We got Caged Sun, of course, because it's a monocolor deck, so you just choose red and it buffs all your creatures, and you can use it to get more mana. That's really good. And then there's Heraldric Banner. This is a mana rock, but it also has, as this artifact enters, choose a color. You can choose red, and then creatures of the chosen color get +1/+0. So it's just buffing your creatures, and you can use it for mana. It's just a great addition into the deck. Next, we've got Morog, Fury of a Comb. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it is attacked this turn. And Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. Whenever a land you control enters, same thing. If it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. Okay, so yeah, with Morog, Fury of a Comb, it's just additional combats, and you can buff your creatures for each time that they attack. So, and at the beginning of each additional combat phase, you'll create more elemental tokens with your commander. So it's really good. Next, we got Ogre Battle Driver. Whenever another creature you control enters, that creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It's very basic. You know, you just put it down there and it buffs creatures that enter the battlefield. And you're going to have a lot of elemental creature tokens coming onto the battlefield. So, great. Then we got Perforos. God of the Forge has Indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. So for each elemental that enters the battlefield, it's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent. You're going to have a lot of elementals, so this is going to do a lot of damage. And then you can also buff those elementals that come onto the field by paying 3 with 1 red in there, and creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So if you have any extra mana, just pump it into here, and pump all your elementals that you're going to be making with Valduk, and yeah, just buff them all up. And then we've got Zariel, Archduke of Avernus. She has 3 abilities. The first one is a +1, and it is creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So that's good for buffing those elementals and also buffing any other creatures that you summon, which can be useful in some circumstances. There's a 0 ability. You can create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. So that's really useful if you want just get some tokens on the field, and you can sacrifice them with some sacrifice lists that we're going to go through later, and they'll do 1 damage, and you can use their ability. So it'll be really good. The third ability is -6. You get an emblem with at the end of the first combat phase on your turn, untap target creature you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. And that's, just additional combats, which is great. Next, we have more combat. We're going to need lots of combat steps. So, Combat Celebrant is the first card here I wanted to talk about. If he hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it. When it attacks, when you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So an exerted creature won't untap during your next untap step. So basically, you can exert it. You can attack and exert it, and then it won't untap during your next untap step, but you get an extra combat phase, which is great, because then you can use your commander's ability to make more elementals. And then there's Godo, Bandit Warlord. So when he enters the battlefield, you can search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. So that's great, because you can tutor an equipment from your deck. And then whenever he attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control until all samurai you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So he only untaps himself and samurai, so that's not as useful, but it still is useful because it's still somewhat useful because your commander will create more elementals with trample and haste at the beginning of that combat step, and those ones will be able to attack, even if you already attacked with the other ones that your commander created from the previous combat step. So you're just able to attack with more. And then we've got Morog, Fury of a Comb again, because he has that landfall ability of whenever a land you control enters, you can untap all your creatures and attack in another combat phase. And you'll be able to make more elementals at the beginning of that combat phase. And then, of course, Zariel as well. She has her 3 abilities. That emblem at the end, if you can get it, is super useful should definitely aim at getting that if possible. And then the next step of the deck is just to create more tokens. Just create more tokens, as many tokens as you can. For this step, I have Breath of Fury. This isn't really creating tokens, but it's a very good card that we're going to go over later. We have Captain's Claws. This one creates a 1/1 white core ally creature token. It has equipped creature gets +1/+0, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you can put a 1/1 white core ally creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and you can equip it for 1. So this is a super cheap mana cost equipment that can just help you get some more tokens onto the field. And it's an equipment, so it also, your commander will also put a 3/1 elemental with trample and haste onto the field if it's equipped to your commander, so you'll be able to create some tokens. We got Elemental Mastery. This is an aura, and enchanted creature has tap, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste, where X is this creature's power. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So this is basically a lesser version of the commander's ability. You have to tap your commander, if you enchant your commander with it, enchant Valduk with it, you can tap him to create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens where X will be his power. And because you're going to have lots of equipment, his power should be relatively high most of the time. And then you should be able to, you'll just have more elementals. And then we have Harmonic Prodigy. This is a very good card because Valduk is a shaman, so this will allow his ability to trigger a second time. You can really start to snowball throughout the fairly early if you get this one out, and you're able to get more and more elementals onto the field. It's a very good card. And then we have Moonsilver Spear. This one is equipped creature has first strike, and whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. So this one's a very good card because it has a fly. It gives you the ability to put flyers onto the field, and they're 4/4, so that's like a medium powerful. They're not super powerful, but they're not like 1/1s either. So I use this quite a bit. And then we got Zariel to create those red devil creature tokens. And then we've got the sacrifice tokens. This is all the things that you're going to use to benefit from using your elementals as gas or fuel to fuel into future turns. We have Ashnod's Altar. This is sacrifice a creature and add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. This is just like a mana source. It's very good, especially if you start getting lots of elementals onto the field. And then we have Goblin Bombardment. This is sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. So this is just dealing damage with the creatures if you sacrifice them in your second main phase, or anytime. I guess this one's you can do it at instant speed, so you could do it during after combat, or after or just instant speed. So that's that. We have the Golden Throne. The first ability doesn't really come into play most of the time. It's the second ability that's really matters. The first ability is Arcane Life Support. This is if you would lose the game, instead exile the Golden Throne, and your life total becomes 1. The second ability is 1,000 Suns die every day, and you can tap and sacrifice a creature and add 3 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. So you'll just do red for this deck because it's mono red most of the time. And then it's a very good mana source that you can use. Next we have Thermopod. This is the entire reason, this card right here is the entire reason that in the deck list that I'll post into the description, it's the entire reason the deck uses snow-covered mountains, is because this one ability here requires a snow-covered land to gain haste until end of turn. Thermopod gains haste until end of turn. And you can also sacrifice a creature to add red mana to your mana pool. So this is great for your second main phase. You can sacrifice your elementals and add a bunch of red mana. And there are some times where you just need that haste for this Thermopod to do some attacking or something. I have had a few situations where I needed this haste and I didn't have the snow-covered mountains, so that's why I changed the basic lands to snow-covered mountains. Just a simple, yeah, that's simple. Next we have Tooth and Claw. This is sacrifice 2 creatures and put a 3/1 red beast creature token named Carnivore onto the battlefield. So this is one way to turn your temporary elemental creatures into a more permanent red beast creature token. So you can sacrifice 2 elemental creature tokens that will be exiled at the end of turn anyway to create just 1 red beast creature token. So this is just concentrating your temporary tokens into a more. Next we have Trading Post. This one's very good because you can sacrifice your elementals to return artifact cards from your graveyard. So if your opponent gets rid of some of your equipment, you can get it back with this. And you can also sacrifice artifacts to draw a card. So you can sacrifice an equipment, draw a card, and then get that equipment back later by sacrificing one of the elementals on another turn. Or if you have a way to untap Trading Post, you can do that all in one turn. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then we have Witch's Oven. This is sacrifice a creature, create a food token. So you can sacrifice your elementals, and you'll be able to create food tokens, which is basically just life gain. You'll be able to use that as life gain. It's pretty useful. Now I have some interesting interactions here. First is something that I've already gone through. I just wanted to put this side by side so that you could see it. It's just his ability to create the 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with trample and haste, and then there's this elemental mastery aura that you can tap him and create X/1/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste. Yeah, you can just tap him. His base power is 3, so his minimum amount to create, unless there's something reducing his power, would be 3. He would create 3/1/1 red elemental creature tokens, and then plus the whatever equipment he has. Oh, if it's just elemental mastery, if you just have elemental mastery on him, then he would create 3/1 red elemental creature token, and you could also create 3/1/1 red elemental. So that's 4 tokens, which is 2 cards. Crazy. And then Breath of Fury. If you had this, then this is the card that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so if you enchant a elemental with this, and that elemental happens to deal combat damage to a player, you can sacrifice it and attach Breath of Fury to a creature you control. So you can attach it to another elemental, and if you do, you can untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So you can untap all your creatures, and then you can create more elemental tokens, and it just creates this loop of like creating more elemental creature tokens, and then using those to attack, and if they deal damage, then you'll be able to put Breath of Fury on another elemental token, and it just keeps going and going, and you'll be able to create more and more tokens and overwhelm your opponents. That's basically how that works. And next I wanted to point out this Rune Grinder card. He has Menace, and when Rune Grinder dies, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. And he also has Mountain Cycling. So this is a great card because you can either cast him and then sacrifice him to Trading Post and draw. If you don't like your hand, you can choose, or each player can choose to discard their hand and draw 7 cards if you need like a new hand. Like if your hand isn't working very well, then do that. But also, you could also just Mountain Cycle this, so you could discard it and search your library for a mountain card, put it into your hand. And then you can sacrifice one of your elementals and return this artifact creature to your hand, and you can do it again. You can keep Mountain Cycling. Like, you won't have as long as you have Rune Grinder and nobody has any graveyard interaction, you'll be able to Mountain Cycle him to get land onto the field as much as you want, basically. But of course, once your opponents catch on that you're doing that, they're going to want to get rid of Trading Post or your graveyard once Rune Grinder is in there. But yeah, this combo is pretty good. Alright, and then I wanted to go through some alternate cards that aren't in my deck list, but they would be good. I just wanted to recommend them if anybody is looking to go for a different route. So here's Battle Hymn. It is an instant. You can add 1 red to your mana pool for each creature you control. And because you're going to be creating lots of tokens, you'll be getting a lot of red mana. That's basically it. It's a pretty simple one. If you wanted to go more into the elemental direction, then you're going to want this Champion of the Path. I don't have enough elementals in this deck to use this, but so as an additional cost to cast this spell, behold an elemental card and exile it. So you just basically reveal an elemental, exile it, and then you'll be able to cast them. And then whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So whenever those tokens enter, those elemental tokens, they're going to deal damage equal to its power to each opponent. And you're going to have lots of tokens, so this is going to be crazy, pretty crazy. And then when this creature leaves the battlefield, you return the exiled card to its owner's hand. So it's just basic, I guess. Not very, yeah, the third ability isn't as impactful as the middle one. Next we have Freya Crescent. So she has jump. During your turn, Freya Crescent has flying, which is pretty good, I guess. But the second ability is what we're looking for. You can tap to add 1 red to your mana pool and spend this mana only to cast an equipment spell or activate an equip ability. So this is just a mana rock, basically, is what you're going to use her as. Just to cast equipment is basically, that's the point. Next we have Gut True Soul Zealot. Is whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature or an artifact. If you do, create a 4/1 black skeleton creature token with menace that's tapped and attacking. Okay, so with this one is just a different way of using your temporary elemental creature tokens, and you can sacrifice one of them to create a more permanent 4/1 black skeleton creature token. So it's just turning those temporary bonuses into more permanent ones later on. And this is Hexing Squelcher. This is a great card. I don't know why they printed this one. This is just power creep on another level, I think. So this spell can't be countered. It has ward, pay to life, and spells you control can't be countered. And then it also has other creatures you control have ward, pay to life. So just put this, I should put this one into if I ever get around to it, but for now I really can't. But this is a wild card. Yeah, it should definitely go in any red deck ever, basically. You won't be disappointed. Yeah, I can't really say much else about this. It's just power on another level, and it should go in every red deck. Alright, we got Mr. Gutsy. This is a artifact creature. Whenever you cast an aura or an equipment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Mr. Gutsy. So when Mr. Gutsy dies, create X junk tokens, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So Mr. Gutsy here lets you create artifacts that have tap, exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. So this is basically like allowing you to look at the top cards of your library. And you can also sacrifice them with those sacrifice outlets later after you get a bunch of +1/+1 counters on them. So it's just a different avenue of looking at cards on the top of your deck to cast, basically. It could be useful in some decks. And then we have Shared Animosity. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. So because you're going to be using a lot of elemental creature tokens, this is going to be pretty crazy. Yeah, to just buff your elemental creature tokens like wild. It's going to be a wild ride. And that's the end. Like, favorite, subscribe. I hope you liked the video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.